All right, let's start that again. I wanted to talk a little bit about resilience, um, because I believe if we're going to talk about tenderness, if we're kind of opening back up to that aspect of our nature, and it really is our nature. I don't think this is something we've got to invent. We do have to uncover it, recover it. Um, the original reason why we may have covered over our tenderness is because life happened and it was hard, and things came at us and we tightened up. Demands came at us, um, judgments came at us. We were told in various ways we're not okay, um, and we were, hurt or laughed at or abused or whatever. Things happen, and so we close that up. So I think that it's important to look at, well, how is it possible to be sensitive as a being, to hold that tenderness and not have it be fragile as it was when we started out. I mean, my granddaughter Lucy she's very fragile. She falls apart very easily, very quickly. And we don't necessarily want to be like that. We do learn how to regulate our emotions. And interestingly, I can see it already in her, how she's learning to regulate herself in various ways. But this skill of resilience and tenderness at the same time, it's my experience is this is not something that our egos know how to do. Our egos kind of know how to put on a face. They know how to act appropriately. They know how to do the control thing. But they just can't quite do this other thing, how to be tender and to be nonetheless strong. If I can use that word, I'm not sure that's even the right word. I did like the word resilient in the sense that we don't feel fragile in our tenderness. Our tenderness doesn't feel fragile. And so, as I'm encouraging you to let your heart matter in this class, to let your tenderness come forth, and to even love fiercely what you love, which I think is part of letting your heart matter. There's an element in which you open to heartbreak. That there is that possibility here. And I want to mention it. And the thing that I want to say about heartbreak is that it's okay. It's not a sign of failure. To our egos, it is. To our egos, it's somehow to let something touch us to the point where we feel pain. Our egos rush in and said that shouldn't happen. And it's unfortunate because there's actually not a problem with that. Just feeling some, for instance, of the pain of the world right now. It's not a mistake to let that touch you. And there's, what I realized, I'll just share an experience with you, because it's a pretty big one for me. And in a certain way, it's it's a little mysterious to me, because I feel like I was suffering for many years with the pain of climate change, in a way that wasn't really helping anyone. I was certainly active in some things that were helping people, but there was a kind of a dread, I would say, that had settled into my spirit, a certain dread of what's coming. And I speak of this because I know there are many who feel the same way. And it arises out of my love of this world, this natural world that we have, and love of animals, and the suffering that I feel is coming our way because we simply haven't found the political will to deal with the problem. We just haven't. You know, we have our particular problem in this country, the United States, but it's not just here. And so there was kind of a panic, a kind of a dread. And there was a moment when I let my heart break. And I was kind of shocked at the level of it, where I just let it go through me. And I was in the presence of my wife. And that was important because someone else got to witness it. It isn't something that I necessarily have had happen in public, though in some ways I wish I could. I wish I could let people feel that level of heartbreak. But at least Kate was present. And I guess it has happened with a couple buddies of mine too. And, you know, they were very reassuring. Mark, you don't have to carry this on your shoulders alone. And that's true. I don't. But there was a moment when I let the sorrow really come into me and just broke down and sobbed about the fact that, you know, people aren't rousing themselves. What needs to happen isn't happening. And something shifted in that, I have to say. And I can't really tell you how or why. I can't tell you because it has nothing to do with the intellect. I don't think any differently about the problem, and I don't feel like the problem is any less dire. It wasn't like I suddenly bawled my head off and realized it isn't a problem, or that suffering isn't going to come our way. But something shifted, and I feel a little like the Grinch whose heart had to grow a few sizes in some way to be able to handle the truth of it and to be at peace. Though I don't want to exaggerate the peace. I don't want to make it sound too, too final or complete, because it's certainly not. But there was a moment, and I think that I had to molt like an insect. You know, there was something too big for my heart to handle. It's really too big for just about anybody's heart to handle, I have to say. And I do feel like we are in a moment where the whole human race is going to have to molt. And you know what I mean by molt? Like insects get too big for their exoskeleton, and they actually have to crawl out of it. A caterpillar, when it molts, has to actually crawl out of its exoskeleton and grow a new one. And then at a certain point, they even pupate. They even, go into a kind of a structure where their enzymes dissolve their body and reform it to become a butterfly or whatever else they're becoming as an insect. It's a pretty absolutely amazing thing that happens that nature figured out. But, lo and behold, I realized I had to molt after the fact. And so to combine like equanimity with tenderness, it sometimes absolutely requires us to lose it, to let go. And something happened in sobbing, something let go inside of me that I could not have engineered. I could not have done it as a practice, and something changed. And it has persisted for a few years. It's not a small thing. Something shifted inside me. And I speak of it because it, by way of blessing, those of you who are willing sometimes to let your heart break in the face of the world. And of course, there's many other things besides this to have your heart break about. And it does feel to me like holy work. And I don't think you just do it for yourself. I don't think it was just something I need to have happen to me to make me more comfortable in the world. I can't quite say how it matters, but I think it matters much more than it matters just to me. And, you know, it was around the time that I was beginning this mantra of saying your heart matters to myself. I just find it to be a powerful thing because my conditioning runs so deep to kind of close down and go up into my head. And it just has allowed me more and more to not do that. And I keep rediscovering this vastness of the heart, this vast connectedness of the heart, which is the real basis of equanimity. You know, and it's not an idea, it's not a philosophy. The okayness that's there doesn't excuse us from inaction. It doesn't excuse inaction. But I really believe deeply, and I really have come to see that we're at a moment in history where it's more than just like needing better policies, though we certainly need those. It's more than just needing to decarbonize. There is some way I sense that we as a species need to molt. We need to actually crawl out of the shell that we have lived in, many of the structures that we have put in place that we think are creating safety around us. Something needs to happen. And it is not going to be easy. And so my role as your Dharma teacher, and I see that I've kind of gone a little beyond time, but give me one more minute. My role as your Dharma teacher is to remind you of this level of reality where connectedness exists, where equanimity is possible, and that there is a strength that's beyond our ego strength, beyond just our ability to hold ourselves together. And it's something we possess collectively. It's not just an individual thing. It's something we possess collectively. And I needed my wife there to witness that. It's not an accident that it wasn't a lonely experience. And so, in conclusion, I feel a little ridiculous kind of just winding this up because I feel like it's such a profound thing that I'm touching upon. And it may be good that we just kind of let you sit with it, even listen to it again, listen to this talk again, and let it touch you. That there is a kind of holy ground to the willingness to be tender and to be open in the face of the world as it is and the truth of suffering and impermanence. There's holy ground here that we walk on. And there is really a power that is beyond us in the sense of egos, in the sense of our resources that we think we have. And we possess that collectively and even transpersonally, even beyond us when we touch into that. So I'll leave you with that. I'll leave you with these thoughts. And I'll be curious how this percolates through the week inside of you. And maybe just your own exploration of, in ways that maybe aren't quite so big as the example I gave, of the resilience of tenderness in your lives as you live them moment to moment. Okay? All right. So be well, everybody. Take care and have a good week.